Go ahead.
Okay, welcome everybody. We'll start the meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks again for coming out tonight. We'll start the meeting with number one, approve the agenda, make any additions, deletions, or corrections. I've got a couple changes. We're going to remove B1. Sarah Middleton will come to the next meeting from the Zembro Water Trail. Number E1A, conditional use permit for Jason Wilker. That public hearing was canceled at Planning and Zoning, so that is also taken off of our agenda. We'll remove that. We're adding F2 under old business. We're adding the chicken ordinance, which everybody has in front of them to review that. And then we're moving L2, under the attorney, the labor negotiations. We'll move that to personnel number one, and that does not need to be closed. So we'll give an update on that and for those contracts, which also you have in front of you, the final TA.
So you're saying L2 is becoming L1?
L2 is becoming K1, sorry, of the personnel, yeah. Since it's personnel, it doesn't need to be closed. Okay, that's all I've got.
I have, one under F3, old business.
Okay.
Shopco, what we call the Shopco lot out front.
Okay. Anything else? Teresa, anything else?
No.
Dan? No. Doug? No. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Cody. Do I have a second? Second. Thanks, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. On to the consent agenda, number 2. Everything's in your packet. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in your packet.
I'll make that motion.
Lonnie, thank you. I'll have a second.
I got it.
Coy, thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. On to B, visitors to council. We have one, Allison Rideout. I don't believe Allison's here.
I don't think she's there.
Okay, we'll remove that and move on to C, public forum, which I don't have any comment cards, unless somebody still hold on to one. Okay, on to no public hearings, committee report. Number 1, planning commission. We have one item there, Hack subdivision request.
I believe Ms. Leff is going to address that tonight. Obviously with her pregnancy, she's not able to make it, so I was pinch hitting. I hope that we can move that to the next hearing, so I have a little more time to get myself up to speed on those issues.
Okay.
What's the issues?
Well, the issues are, I don't know what the issues are, I haven't, just so I can familiarize myself with that.
Lonnie, we don't have any issues
I don't
with
think
it.
there is any issues.
Yeah.
Well, you did have, an attorney's opinion, and she's not here to talk about her opinion.
Well, that was held at the other meeting, and we discussed that. I think that we need to move forward on this. I don't see any issues with it that we need to.
The only, like I said, the only issues I could see was the misinterpretation of Lot 2. I think she assumed that it was bigger at one time than it shows on the map, and it really never was. They haven't changed the dimensions of Lot 2, the original lot whatsoever.
No.
I don't.
Lot 1, Lot 2 is the one that we did the minor side.
Right.
Yeah, no, we discussed this thoroughly at planning commission Monday night, and
So issue is probably a bad word. If there's anything that need to be discussed with Ms. Leff,
no, I don't think there was. It was all taken care of and handled by the planning commission, and I think Rich was there to answer any questions that were needed.
I think so. I'm not an attorney, but I don't see any issues with it the way it was. The only issue that may come up, is if Dodge County throws a wrench in it when you take it down there, and they have an issue with the 2 lots being numbered 2. That's the only thing I can see.
They shouldn't. I mean, the county surveyor's gotta check it before you get it recorded.
Right.
And I sent her an email Tuesday morning
Yep.
to ask her about the naming thing, if Ms. Leff had gotten a hold of her or not, and she never responded yet, so.
Yep.
Whether it's gonna be called replat of lots 1 and part of lot 2, block 1, Hack's Edition, if it's gonna be called Hack's Second Edition, I don't know. I
The
don't
only,
care which
I
one.
can see, Coy, and maybe you can reiterate on this, is if there is an issue, the county's gonna catch it.
Right,
I-
right, I mean, we've got, Rich has done, everything's been done, we discussed it at planning commission level, so it's ready to roll.
I don't see an issue. I think it's good to go.
Well, we can, bring a resolution to your meeting on the 24th, and then you can approve it then, and we'll be able to publish a notice of the final plat on the 26th, and then that will be reviewed by the planning commission on February 12th.
What, did we just muddy up here? I mean,
No,
I read
we
it.
need a resolution, you need a
have to have a
resolution.
So we don't
Right.
have the resolution here to approve this
No,
tonight?
no, you don't have a resolution
Why not?
tonight. No, you don't.
Why not?
The attorney did not have, an opportunity to review the recommendation.
I didn't know we needed the attorney to review this.
I would ask her to review it because she did, provide an opinion.
This was handed to me at about noon today, I'm just trying to get up to speed, that's why I'm asking
Yeah.
for additional time.
Yeah, no,
Well,
I do not have a resolution.
Pardon me, but,
I don't have a resolution.
for someone to table this, the city council needs to table this.
That's fair enough, I'm just telling you where I'm at,
I'm
that's
just-
all.
it's-
I don't know anything about this.
We've
That's-
been, I mean, Rich has been dangled on this thing enough as it is, I think we need to move forward on it. I make a motion to approve the Hack subdivision request as discussed at planning commission Monday night.
Can I ask one question?
Yep.
Are we gonna be in trouble moving ahead without?
I don't
Attorney
know,
left?
that's the thing, I don't know. I was asked to pinch hit today, I was handed this materials early this afternoon, I had a mediation, I haven't had a chance to review anything, I don't know.
Can I ask the Massies, if we hold the resolution till the second, 2 weeks from tonight, is that gonna create an issue for you?
We won't be here.
But would it be okay?
Yeah, as long as you don't throw something else in there, I mean,
I don't foresee us throwing anything else.
I
don't know. I
As long
don't.
as it's
I agree with
approved,
Lonnie.
if we're doing it the right way, you know,
yeah,
letting
I mean,
the attorney check it
I
out.
requested to find out if there'd been some kind, I'm gonna give you a little history now, but I'm getting a little upset, but anyway, when I bought that property from Burnus, she had been forced to plat it before she could sell it, okay? There'd been 2 big lots cut out when they sold it to the school in '94, the rest of the land.
Yep,
So anyway, for some reason, she was forced to plat it before she could actually sell it.
yep.
2007. I don't know what it was. City couldn't find anything supposedly. I don't think they looked back far enough or whatever. But, so I'm thinking, that we got to still pay some whack and sack fees from what we just agreed on the other night.
Yep.
I think it was paid before, or whatever agreement was made before. They put that bike path in after, all that other stuff. There's a lot of things that went on that there should be some kind of paperwork trail on it. Apparently nobody can find it, whatever. But I don't care, as long as you don't throw any other stipulations or
Yep.
things in there, fine.
Yep, because I'm sure the planning commission isn't going to change anything from what it is right now. And I agree with Coy, I don't see any issue with it, but just to make sure we're doing the right thing,
Yeah.
you're doing the right thing, if we hold it until next meeting and then approve it, move on from there, so it goes to the county, everything is cool?
Yep.
Okay,
Mhm.
is that,
Hopefully
Whether we
by then
approve a
can-
resolution tonight or the 24th, it still has to go back to planning and zoning on the 12th?
No.
Then whether a resolution was approved tonight or on the 24th, the notification for the public hearing for the final plat
Okay.
would not have to be published until the 26th for the planning commission meeting on February 12th.
So it does have.
So it doesn't hold
The
up
final
any.
plat. Okay, the final plat.
I think as a council, we have to do a little something here to help some of these people out. I mean, there's another one that's real similar here that had a cup, and it wasn't registered at the courthouse. Here, someone's paid on this property for stuff before. It wasn't taken care of all the way. I mean, I think it's our obligation to help some of these people out a little bit, because it wasn't them that dropped the ball. You know the other issue I'm talking about too.
Right.
I mean, it's same similarities here, and it isn't the people that own the property's fault either time. And we've got them both in front of us right now, and I think it's a little bit of a obligation to us to help them out a little bit on it,
Yep.
because
That's fine, if we can get it so we can get the first meeting in February, we get the final plat approved by then, that's fine.
Okay.
Make it work. In the drive motion.
If you don't second it, it's not going anywhere.
Okay.
I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, that's the agenda for that, we'll have a resolution, so we know exactly what we're getting at. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yep, thanks.
Rich.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay, committee report, library board report. We had a library board meeting last night, discussed a lot of different things. Library's set up for the next year. They've got their summer reading program set and everything's going. They had their planning meeting on the 2nd of January to start the year where they aren't open and do all that, so they were able to, the heat wasn't working, so it was pretty cold on January 2nd. But they held the meeting anyway. I guess they could see the breath, so they got that fixed. So other than that, the library's going along pretty decently.
Was that warranty at all, or?
No, it was something to do, okay, I'm not an HVAC guy either, along with a planning or zoning guy, so, something with the exhaust condensation, it froze up, so it wasn't getting the air to flow, so they unhooked something to, okay. It didn't work, and then they got it to work, that's what I know. That's all I have in the library. On to F, old business, number 1, CETA contract.
So, the council had asked that this come back after the evaluation had been done, and I believe that Dan had completed an evaluation. For CETA, I had received one from Mike Langdon, I believe, that was positive. And then, I provided one for, Rebecca myself, and felt that she was doing a good job.
Okay. Are there any questions on the CETA contract?
Do we get to see the evaluations, or?
I provided those to, Ron Ziegler. I can ask that he send them back to me.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to see them. I'd like to table this and.
Okay.
I mean, I would like to see exactly what we're getting.
Okay.
Sure, no problem.
I don't know if did you send yours yourself? I don't think I saw yours. Did I just know that you had provided it?
Her boss.
Yeah.
to you,
Yeah, I can ask
We'll table
Ron
this and bring
Ziegler
it
to
back to
send
next
me.
meeting with the
Okay,
details,
so you
yeah.
want, I'll have Ron Ziegler send me back what we provided.
Okay, thank you. Number 2, the chicken ordinance. It's red line there. The increases, if you have up to so many, 15,840 square feet, you can have a permit shall be for keeping of no more than 12 hen chickens on any premise over 15,840 feet.
So that, in order to not be an arbitrary number, is double the required square footage for an R1 lot. We do allow chickens in more than just R1. If you wanted to double the R3 lot, then you could go up to 16,000 square feet. If you want to do double an R3 lot, I just didn't want to use an arbitrary number, so I used double the R1 required square footage. So.
That's fine with me.
I think we'll leave it this way, it's simple.
I think this is what we kinda came up with.
Yeah,
And-
double the number of, as long as you have
and
more
if
than
we
one
run
lot.
If we run into something, someone can come and ask and see what we say, but this is a good place to start, I think.
Okay.
And then in addition to approving the ordinance, there's, abbreviated publication at the end of the document as well. If you would approve that, then we can publish these.
Approve them separately.
Yeah.
Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the chicken ordinance as updated.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Dan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. Entertain a motion to approve the abbreviated publication of said ordinance.
I'll make that motion.
Dan, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
The only thing I'd like to say is that we're seeing this right now in our packet, and this, I think, is something that should have been out to the public, just in case.
Okay. Thank you. Right.
On the, at least on,
Yeah, so they can,
Yeah.
I mean, this affects the whole city at some sort of point.
Okay, F3, Troy, you added chocolate lot.
Yes, I got a question on that. I do believe in one meeting, I can't remember which meeting, so maybe you guys can help me out, because we have a few, closed sessions, so I don't know if I can find it. Didn't we go through and ask to have that plotted, so we know what we're selling?
Surveyed?
Surveyed.
Surveyed.
One of our meetings, didn't we say we need to have this surveyed here a few months ago? I can't remember if it was in a, we were talking about it in a closed session.
It might have been when I was sick. Did you have that emergency meeting?
I remember some about it because I remember saying, we had it for sale and we've never done a survey. I found it hard to fathom that we didn't know how
I
big
think
the
we all
lot was.
agreed we should, but I don't think anything was pushed past that. That's
Well,
what I
I
remember.
that's just it, I can't remember, I know we agreed that, you know, we own it, we should know what we're selling, that was
Right.
kind of the whole topic.
Because the mystery was where that strip was.
There you go, right,
Right.
exactly. So, I would like to know what, you know, we need to know what we're selling.
Right.
If we're gonna sell it, we should know where the corners are, we should know where it's sold.
We need to have pins.
We need to have pins.
Yep.
You know, so, I talked with our engineer earlier today, there's different levels of pay to have it done, for the minimum to, what did you call it, the Ultra or something?
Alta survey.
Alta survey.
That's, again, a survey on kind of steroids. May not be the direction the council wants to go, but, it adds a lot of other items to, just a typical studio survey, so.
How does the Alter one go?
An Alta survey, well, that'd be on more expensive commercial properties, usually you gotta go through and locate all the existing features around there and everything. If you're just doing a boundary survey, it would just be locate the pins. I think that's all you need to do for now. Isn't that part of the wasn't that platted as a shop code? Isn't
No,
that a
it's,
lot or not?
it's an existing lot that was not part of
Okay,
shop.
okay.
Yeah,
But I mean.
think there might even be two parcels in there, so that's.
For
that's
right
the
now,
option.
until you get it, let the buyer take care of the Alta survey.
Well, that's what we wanna know, what we own exactly, so
Yeah.
we can tell what we're
So,
selling.
But I let the owner take care of the wall, cause they're all gonna have different requirements depending on who the lender is, so.
Where, the discussion is there more information that's associated with that lot, like access, for example, is pretty important. Kind of bundling the other aspects of the property together, so you can market it better to the end commercial property. So they don't have to invest the time to figure out not only what the property is, but is it in a floodplain? What is the zoning requirements, what is the sign requirements for the city, what is the access to the property? So that's the discussion, and you can either do the Alta survey that provides some of that information, or provide other information to the end, people that you're marketing the property to. So the end commercial user knows what kind of they're getting, could be attractive for the city to move forward, in addition to the survey itself.
But if we just do a survey to get the pins, I mean, most places, whoever's gonna be buying it, if it's a commercial area, they have people that work with finding out where they can put entrances, and a lot of them know that themselves,
That's
if they know
right.
where the pins are.
Well, one of my questions is like, just where does the curb sit? How much grass space is there? Is the
Right.
curb on the property line? Is there a piece of grass there that has gotta be, you know, it just, we don't know where the city's property is.
Right.
True. Would we wanna wait on that as far as the city goes, as far as doing that, until we know we have, the biggest issue right now is we have 2 offers on the lot, but we don't have any way to access it. So we're waiting
Well-
for Opadan or Shop, or
Yeah.
whoever that is, to
Let
get back
me-
to us.
I'm gonna move on to that, my next one here, so.
Yeah, it's my understanding, we have provided 2 counter offers.
Well,
Right,
let's
whatever,
give
but-
it, let's,
Yeah.
I
We
just
don't
wanna
have
stay on
access.
the topic right now of what your guys' thoughts are of getting our property pins located, so we know what we're selling. So everybody can go out there and actually look on a map that somebody draws and said, we're 158.2366 northwest this, whatever. You know, so they know what they've got, the square footage they got, and what we're selling. Cause that was kind of the consensus that we thought, we don't really have the exact, on those 2 lots, what we have. So I was completely lost on this little sliver out there.
Right.
You know, which side of the road it was on, everything else, and then Brandon sent me a overview of kind of what showed it today. So,
It's on the south side of the driveway, isn't it? This one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
but just, not to hold you to any number, just to go out and find the, must be 6 pins, designate those 2 lots, I mean, what's something like that cost?
Well, I think I already located some of the pins, from the former EDA Director Martin, and I had some other correspondence with the access with MnDOT. So I don't wanna regurgitate some of that information or find out what we had. But to do a certificate survey, probably $1,500, to do that survey, go out there, locate them, create the map and the figure you're looking for.
And stick pins in?
Correct.
I mean, the white?
Yep.
Could you do it cheaper?
Not a fair question, but it's actually
I don't know, I think $1,500 to find out what we really got.
I think that, to be in all honesty, to be upfront and trying to sell this thing, that we need to know what this lot is, so people can actually look at it and see what we've got. Yes.
Do we wanna hold off though, right now, with those two offers and the two counter offers we had going, and just wait and see what comes back? Cause if those fall through, then we're ready to go, cause we already got the offer. They already know they're looking at, I mean,
Right,
do
well, I
we
think-
wanna just hold on and wait instead of spending money and just see where we get with this? See what answer we get. They said they're coming back hopefully after the holidays.
Well, basically what I'm getting at is that you wanna buy a lot, right? I'm selling it, you're gonna say, you're saying it's a 1/4 acres.
Yeah.
Yep, it is. Where are your pins? Show me the lot size, show me where everything is. You know, so it's like one of those things, it's like, just to be kind of forethinking and saying, all right, here's our lot, these are the corners here, these are 2 lots, or we've done a minor subdivision for the city, and we combined the 2 lots. You know, and then we got the pins here, you've got exactly 1.265 acres here, exactly, these are your corners. They can't deviate out of that.
The other plus side too, with getting them pinned, so people can see it, if those 2 offers fall through the hole, there's already the pins there, they may, by the time this is through, we might have a 3rd or 4th offer. I'm not saying we will, but.
It's just something that we talked about at another meeting, and I didn't know if we moved forward with it or whatever, and I would like to, I myself would like to get it pinned, so we know what we're selling, so we can go to a possible purchaser and say, this is our size lot, this is your exact square footage, this is your exact acreage, whatever.
That must have been when I was sick, because I don't remember that. I assumed that we
Yeah, I think you were.
I assumed that we already knew what property we owned,
Yeah.
and that there's already pins on a lot.
I've thought from the
It was
beginning
done
that.
5 years ago. The pins are there, they're just not the white stakes there, I mean, they're
Right.
there.
I know, but it was just done,
it was just
that whole property
There's
line.
been a lot of dirt and houses moved and everything else around there. It'd be
May or may
amazing
not
if
be
they're
there.
all there.
So,
Yeah, I'd like to see pins in there.
I'd entertain a motion to have the simple survey or whatever done on the 2 properties down there with the pins put in.
Last question, and it isn't that much money, but where does the money come from for that? I'm just asking.
Just legitimate questions.
well, it's part.
Planning and,
Probably
not
EDA.
planning, EDA.
I believe
EDA
EDA
probably-
owns the lots.
EDA owns the lots, even though when you sell lots, it doesn't
Mhm.
go to the city, there's a special
Yeah,
taxing
goes
district,
into
right,
the
so.
debt service fund for the post
Okay.
office.
Okay, all right, we have a motion on the floor to authorize a simple survey of those lots. Second.
To be performed by WHDA.
To be performed by WHP.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, do I have any discussion? If it's coming out of EDA funds, does they have to have any say on? Not really, no, I just asked him, so make sure there's no. Not if we send it downhill. They could ask uphill, but we can send anything back downhill. Just making sure so there was no surprises.
It's
That's
only
my opinion anyway.
$300 a piece, okay? It's only $300 a piece if they say no, Dan.
I'm out. Okay, we have a first and a second, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion passes unanimously.
Okay, I'm not done with it. Okay, onto this access part of it. I've been trying to talk to Brandon a little bit, and everybody knows about site triangle, right? And the intersections, see oncoming traffic, pedestrians, whatever else. So Brandon kind of told me, and I tried to do some Google research on it and everything else, and I'm not very good at it. But I went out, and Brandon did tell me that the highway is 90 feet wide for the road right away. So I went out this afternoon, I measured 45 feet from the center of the road going to the west to the sidewalk, and it gets me to about, plus or minus, about 2 feet past the sidewalk to the west side. Going from there, if I look at the little map overview of where the lines are somewhat drawn of what Brandon sent me today. They're just inside the curb, maybe a foot or two plus or minus. That gives you 133 feet of access to that property from the south.
Along your Fourth Street.
Along Fourth Street, it's 133 feet, plus or minus 5 feet.
To the edge of where the Shopko.
From the
lot
right of
was
way,
there.
yeah, from the Shopko property in the right of way of the state of Minnesota. So my question is to anybody who can help me out, where does the state have the right to say that, where we can access Fourth Street?
I don't think they do. I don't think they could prevent us.
Okay, then my next question is, why have we been told we can't access that property?
I
Might be
spoke
access
with-
off of 57.
Yeah, I,
Um,
spoke with Rhonda Alice this afternoon. She actually reached out to me because she
Who?
had Rhonda Alice at MnDOT District 6.
She's the planning director for MnDOT District 6, it's a local district
She
in
had had an
Rochester.
inquiry about access. It's her position that at the time of the Shopko development, they approved the one access from 57 and one access from Fourth Street. And if either access, if access should be made at another point from either 57 or Fourth Street, that one of the two existing access points would have to be closed. So if we wanted a different access on Fourth, we would have to close the existing one, or if we wanted a different access on 57, we would have to close the existing one.
So she sent you documentation?
No,
We-
she reached out to me today because she had been contacted.
She's somewhat wrong in that point.
At
Where
the
it's,
time of the Shopko development?
no, but
Oh.
she's wrong as far as MnDOT can suggest with traffic loads coming off of a side street, but they can't deny access onto Fourth Avenue by the city. Fourth Street.
So-
They can deny access right onto 57, just like the county can deny access onto 13, you know,
Okay.
going out of town. But
Yeah,
I don't.
I'm just relating what she told me on the phone.
Yeah.
So she's not saying that Fourth Street access could not be in another location. What she's saying is that based on the, development of the Shopko property, then the other Fourth Street access point
How does the
would be
state have
closed.
jurisdiction over?
I cannot explain that.
Yeah.
I am telling you that Rhonda Ellis.
You're just a messenger, you didn't.
Right, Rhonda Ellis reached out to me today because she had been contacted. She informed me that if the city wanted a different access from 57 or from Fourth Street, that we would have to close the other access from 57 or Fourth Street.
Okay, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Or us a favor?
Yeah.
Can you find out who she was contacted by? And then what documentation does she have in state ordinance statute that says they have right-of-way or jurisdiction over telling us
Okay.
where we can and can't access our own streets
Okay.
outside of the state right-of-way?
Okay.
You got a
I would
DOT book?
also like to
I'd
have her phone
I'm
number,
gonna grab that
contact
DOT
number.
book, I got it.
Do you have, would you
And
have
email.
Rhonda's?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I think,
What were you dealing with when you gave them something like that to begin with? when there was a lot?
If I could, I've already had some conversation with MnDOT, trying to think if it was Rhonda, pre-Rhonda a few years ago with the former EDA director, so I'd like to, if I could interject a little bit.
That's fine.
Regurgitate some information, pull that back up and see what was discussed. At the end of the day, you need to have access to your property, and this is a separate property than Shopko, and Rhonda may or may not know that. So all things said, if she says she doesn't want access on 57, we'll say, well, we'll get access off of Fourth. So I think push come to shove, we can get access off of Fourth regardless.
Right, and I
With that
understand,
said, we-
57, I totally get, they can tell us
Yeah.
whatever they
Yeah,
want on
yeah,
57,
right.
but outside of their right-of-way, and they can't go down Fifth Street 3 blocks and say, we can't have another driveway on Fifth
Question
Street.
here for the council, and I don't know the timeline, but when Shop was built, was there still a separate, house there with an access off of Fourth Street, correct?
Yeah.
When Shop was built?
But
But
the house is
The
gone.
house
So-
was gone.
The
Was-
driveway
Was gone or is gone?
Was
Was
gone.
gone.
Was gone
Was
along
gone.
with the access was removed, so there was two accesses off, well, changed in
And
Right.
one
Used
of
to be
those
courthouse.
lots was actually part of the Shopko development and then quit claim back to the city after the fact.
I think MinDOT can make suggestions for traffic load.
Push come to shove, you're still gonna have access to your property.
Right.
So we can come off the fourth, I'm pretty certain of that, push come to shove.
Okay.
Well, I guess kinda here to just wrap this up, sorry, Mr. Mayor.
No.
Is that we've all been kind of under the impression that we can't access this lot, right? And I do believe that we need to do our due diligence as city council and staff and investigate this, because if we got offers on the table on there, we need to move forward.
Well,
And
EDA
make-
has moved forward with.
But I mean, with this idea of finding out if we got this access or not, because like I said, there's a.
On Fourth, yes.
Yes, on Fourth. I mean, I don't think there's people who want this would need access on 57.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's really
No, no, no.
trying for.
We're looking for access from the Shopko parking lot.
With 130 feet of access from the.
Well, I know, but with the,
He wants it from the Shopko lot to lay out his
the way
buildings.
the buildings are laid out.
If it comes in from the other way,
He might have to change it, but I know
Right.
the due diligence is being done by EDA to get
Okay.
access from the Shopko lot to fit the building needs of the first person that put the offer in.
because that's the way he needed it to fit so many parking spots and handicaps.
Coming off the end on Fourth,
He
wouldn't be
loses-
advantageous, so we'd have to change his whole plan and possibly lose the whole building the way it's laid out.
But it-
So our thing, we can get access, it makes no sense to me, Shopko should be tripping over themselves to approve access to their lot because it's gonna increase traffic to their lot, and it makes no sense. But they put us off till late January because they had
Yeah,
some corporate
and-
stuff going on.
First of the year, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we-
I have, reached out to, my contacts,
Mhm.
and then, the store manager provided me with additional contacts, and I've reached out to her as well. So I have 2 phone calls out at the beginning of this month, in
Okay.
regard to that.
Yeah, I think we should pursue every angle we can.
'cause, yeah, I was doing
The
some
lot should be done.
checking in with Shopko, talking to them, not Shopko themselves, but just with the store. And then, basically, corporate was going through changes, no CFOs and change that CO. So, they were dropping the ball up there, cause they were trying to fill in the seats. They've got new people, and that's kinda why they were pushing it out to the first of the year. Trying to get, so now they're trying to wrap their head around everything up there, is the way I understand it.
Okay, so we can get information back, Brent, about the state right away about being able to come off of Fourth. That, to me, I just don't see, unless I can see it in state ordinance, we can't do that. They can't tell us where we can have access on our city streets,
I don't
outside of
know.
the right of way.
I would agree.
So,
Push come to shove.
okay. And we also don't wanna tick them off, cause we got a pretty big project you gotta tell us about later on Highway 57 with the state, so generally
Other
tell
things.
them we would like to have access on our own streets, certainly, so.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That's it, thank you.
All right, thank you. On to G1, Transportation Alliance under new business.
So this is an opportunity to, be a member of the Minnesota Transportation Alliance, if the council wishes.
We've done this before, correct?
I think so.
This is a renewal.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the renewal of the Transportation Alliance for an annual renewal rate of $305.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks,
Second.
Doug. Thanks, Coy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously. G2, City Attorney Contract. We've all got the contract in the packet. Was there any, so it's all here, but was there any changes from the last contract of note? The hourly rate stayed the same, I believe, if I looked at it the same, so there wasn't, so
Yeah.
basically it's the same thing,
Mhm.
meetings are included.
We'd have a line in it and a change, wouldn't we, if something would change it?
So, I went back and looked at the one from the packet last year, the rates that were the same, so. Any questions on that?
I do have one question, I was gonna look down the nose at me, but I gotta ask you, because it's been on my, bugging me for quite a while. At one point in time when we got, I don't know if it was in the interview process or what, when it was stated, what Melanie had stated, and if I'm wrong, I'll just be quiet, you guys just help me out. but she stated that she wasn't gonna be billing for city council meetings at the beginning. And then we renewed her contract with the same idea that it was gonna be the same, which, to me, I was thinking that she wasn't billing for city council meetings. I know this is a shock to you, but I've gone back into the billings and I've seen that from day one, she's been billing for city council meetings, so if anybody else remembers that, it just, you weren't here, Lonnie wasn't here, but Dan, myself, and Doug were at the beginning. And I just, it's something that I just need to bring up, because like I said, she said that she wouldn't bill for city council meetings. Because that was one of the big things, is that Joe Gazinski didn't come to a council meeting unless we requested it. And that was one of the things that,
Well, it's in there still, it's that way. You don't have to be at them, right? And I read that in there, that it's at the request of administrator
Right.
or mayor or someone?
but I'm just saying that the big thing was, is that, one of the things that I just remember is that she stated that she wasn't gonna be charging for the city council meetings. And it is a significant, I talked with Nancy, it is, you know, we get a pretty healthy thousands of dollars a year for city council meetings. So, moving forward, I think that we should do our due diligence, and if we don't necessarily need our city attorney.
And I had talks with, Administrator Coleman, she's smiling, because I talked to her about this probably 3 times during my budget meetings this fall, is that if we could somehow arrange our business, obviously there's gonna be times things come up that we just have to do, that's just part of the deal.
Right.
That the second meeting of the month is when our attorney tends to have those things, totally you know, the attorney's not here every time. Because there are some times that she's here, and we don't really have anything that pertains that she has to do, there's no reason for her to be here.
But then there's
Right.
times where she's not here, or it would have been nice to have had her here.
Sure, but I think we can go forward and try to do our agenda when we have the attorney or when we need the attorney here, and not just a blanket.
Yeah, I remember when we did it, I was under the assumption the same thing as Coy, that it wasn't, and then when I read your contract, you're actually not charging, yours is in your amount for the
That's
year.
correct.
You know, so then I got doubting myself a little bit on which we had really laid years ago, you know, when we did a couple contracts there, so. Yeah, if we can just try to be more diligent as a council,
Okay.
and like you say, come up with which meeting for sure we're gonna have the legal stuff at. I know there's been way too much legal
There's
stuff
a lot.
with the construction and all that stuff. I mean, it's been something all the time, but
Right.
it's something to look forward to here and
Yep.
try to plan.
So initially, the council had 2 options and did have like 30 to 60 days to determine which option they wanted to go with on the city attorney. So one of the options was to go with a flat rate per month, and the other option was to go with the hourly rate.
So is the.
So I believe that we've actually, in the long run, come out better with the hourly rate than we would have with the, monthly or annual, charges.
Retainer or whatever you want.
Right, right. So if we can look at that again and see
Well-
what the monthly charge would be as compared to what our hourly charges are. Because then, in fact, if they're running very close, it won't make any difference if we have a monthly contract instead of an hourly contract.
well, if they are running close, and we do our due diligence and figure out the meetings that we need her here or not here, we request her or yourself, you know, that would be doing our due diligence. I know the both options that we had, but I just
Right.
remember that Melanie stating that she wasn't gonna charge for city council meetings, and that's here nor there right now at this point in time.
Right.
I just would like to, you know, if we, like Joe said, there's no sense paying me to be there if you don't need me to be there. You know, so, I mean, I just looked at, Nancy was helping me, sorry Nancy, it's way under the bus, but,
You did, you can ask.
I was looking at some of the fees, and it's quite a bit. If we can reduce that, we don't have to get rid of it, I'm not saying that, but just, we just need to, we don't need her here.
I
She
think
may not wanna be.
If we stayed within the, yearly
Monthly
price,
price.
with everything we've had going on, I
Right.
can't believe that we're gonna be over it.
Right.
You know,
No,
you know
I-
something I don't.
No,
I don't know.
no, no, I don't know anything, I just know you're right, we got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, so we can take a look at that for you and come back, and in that case, the council meetings would be included in the monthly, cost, so.
Well, I mean, they are
we can
now,
look at that,
so.
yeah.
If you wanna wait and approve it at the next meeting and see what the annual rate would be compared to what we're doing and see if we can.
Okay.
But no, I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that.
Oh, okay.
I'm just saying, I'm not throwing Melanie under the bus, she's not here, don't throw me under the bus, but, no, I'm perfectly
She'll
fine
watch
with it. I'm just stating that what was transpired 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, whatever, June something, wasn't it, or something like that, but anyways, like I said, I'm just thinking that doing our due
Clarifying.
diligence, if we don't,
We don't either.
sure Melanie doesn't necessarily always wanna be here on every.
I'm talking about that, she
so.
would gladly not come with it.
Right, so, okay, that's all I had, I'm
Okay.
fine with it.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the attorney contract.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carries unanimously. Okay, letter H, mayor's report. Couple different things here. One, let's see, committee, board, commission appointments, EDA, planning commission, park board, et cetera there. I've got a list here. I still have a copy on the one that Linda gave me, so I retyped it. Start with the park board. I'm gonna recommend, I know I've talked to all the council members, I believe, as far as your appointments to the different boards and commissions, I think everything's gonna stay the same there. Nobody raised their hand, so they wanted to switch for a minute, so. Park board, my recommendation to the council would be to reappoint Doug Buck as the council appointee to the park board, reappoint Jason Farnsworth to another term to the park board, and then, appoint Chuck Coleman to take Terry Meyer's place, who was stepping down at the end of 2017. We'd like to thank Terry for his service too. So those are my 3 appointments for the park board. Can we take care of this all with one?
I think you can take care of it all with one motion,
At
just
the
to
end.
approve all the appointments.
Okay. Okay, so we've got that. EDA, we have several vacancies, but I'd like to reappoint Dan and myself as the council appointees, reappoint Mike Peterson, and then thank Julie Olmsted, Mike Langen, and Jeff Stevenson for their service. All 3 are done or stepping down for various reasons. I've got one person I talked to yesterday who's considering EDA. I talked to the chamber board of directors, and at their first board meeting, the last Wednesday of January, they're gonna recommend a board member from the chamber to myself, that I'll come back and recommend to you guys at the next council meeting. So we can have a chamber board member as a member of the EDA. One of my goals this year with EDA is to really get the existing business community involved in EDA activities, and I think the communication there would be better if we do that. We're also asking if Rebecca would attend their board meeting as well. So I'll come back with that name at that time, and I've got 2 other people considering, so I'll have to come back with specific names.
You had Tom Munson.
Oh, Tom Munson, yep, Tom Munson, to appoint Tom Munson. He's a former county employee, and he was with the county EDA department, or ran that. He's a resident of Casson, and he's switching jobs to a different place, so he's gonna have a little bit extra time, and I think he could add some value to what we're doing at EDA, with his background there. So to appoint Tom, I've got 2 others considering for their spots. Library board, I guess appoint myself as the council appointee, everybody else is fine there, they're all still have time left. And then our planning commission to reappoint Coy and Lonnie as the council appointees. Thank Mark Sonis for his service, he didn't wanna do another term, but thank him for his service. And then appoint Joe Fitch as a member of the planning and zoning committee till, I guess it goes to 2020. So those are my recommendations for those 4 commissions or boards.
Can I clarify the
Yep.
EDA? So you're reappointing Mike Peterson
Yep.
and appointing Tom Munson?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Should we do those separately and then go on to the rest of them, or do you want all as one?
You can do them all as one,
Okay.
unless somebody has an issue with one, which they can bring up while you're doing this.
Okay. On the designations, acting mayor,
Any reason I should change that? Okay. I'll recommend to keep it as it is from the past year, Coy, and thank you for filling in for me when I was out for last year, so I appreciate that.
Glad you're back.
Thank you. City attorney appointed, which is by contract, which we just approved, Weber Lethton, how do you pronounce that?
Westner.
Westner, okay, thank you. Zoning administrator is an interim, Teresa. City engineer, Brandon Thibault, WHKS, which is also a contract. Building official, Jay Kruger, contract again. Consulting engineer is on a per project basis. Weed inspector,
There.
public works director. And it's the weeds that grow on the sidewalks and stuff, so that's the weed inspector. I did have a question on that. Fine. Emergency management coordinators, Matt Moss from Dodge County, official newspaper, the Dodge County Independent. And, then I added, do we need a chicken inspector?
I was just gonna ask you about that.
I would actually put my name down for that.
Okay, we'll create chicken inspector, and Coy has volunteered to be the official chicken inspector.
I have no idea why, but it intrigues me.
T-shirt that I made for you. And then we did have some subcommittees that were active last year. We had a liquor store committee. I don't anticipate it was an if and when necessary. The past members of that were Matt Bradford, Derek Murchie, Administrator Coleman, and then Councilmember Borgstrom was the council appointed there. I met last year regarding their Sunday liquor sales, so something comes up there again, but those folks are there. Emergency services, I'm gonna say to be determined, because I wanna meet with, different department heads there, fire, police, and ambulance, to determine exactly what is it they want the emergency services committee to do, or what role. And the historic water tower, we're gonna say to be determined for, until we get that issue hammered out. And then I'd like to create or bring back a personnel negotiations, kind of what we just did. I'll probably have more explanation, but I'd like to appoint myself, with the administrator, and then it'd be kind of a rotating, with the appropriate department head, to review all evaluations and go over some different things, ideas I've got, which I'll bring back to the council sometime before we do it, but, having 12 months under my belt and seeing how things were done or are done, and going through a negotiations period, might have some input that we can do that would help the city, the employees, the administrator, the department heads, so, and then that way, yeah, so I'd like to recommend doing that. So, that being said, I would entertain a motion to approve. Yep. Question?
On the planning commission, did you only have Joe Dowling?
I had Joe, and I had one other application that came in Monday, from Tim O'Connor, and I called Tim yesterday and talked to him and asked him if he would consider doing the EDA instead. I had a conversation with him on the phone, and he's still thinking about that. So I just think.
Don't they meet on Monday night?
Yeah, I've
Planning?
got an issue with it too. I mean, Joe Fitch is the chief of fire, and they have meetings on Monday nights, and talking with somebody earlier that gave me a call, I mean, I think that his direction should be with the fire department. I mean, if he's missing one night a month, that's 25% of his meetings.
Sure.
If it was on a different night, I could see, if you have 2 applicants, and we have 6 people on there, even at that, if we only had the 1, I would still have an issue with it, because we've gone many times with 5 people. We still can create a quorum and do our job as me sitting on the commission. And I think that our fire chief would need to, do his due diligence and run the fire department. If, like I said, if it's on a different night, I can understand that, but my suggestion would be then is if you're gonna go ahead and appoint him, that, he would need to either be commissioned or be the chief of the fire department, one or the other.
Okay.
Well, we are paying him $5,000 a year to be the chief down there, and we're gonna have him at a different meeting, doesn't make any sense.
True. All right, let me, I'll pull that one back off. Planning and zoning, we determine till the next meeting. Let me think about that. Have some conversations. Thanks, guys. Anything else?
Oh, I don't know the other fellow you had there that applied, but.
Tom Munson?
Yeah.
From the county. I've known Tom a little bit, just dealings with the county and different things. Nice young guy, lives here in town.
actually worked for CETA. Is that where, so he was contracted with the county for CETA like Rebecca is to us, and he was with county, now he's changing employment. So he's got some background with EDA, and I think, just from my conversations with him, he'll be valuable to have for us here, so.
He's been to our EDA meetings
Yep.
before.
Yeah.
I do have a contact for you for EDA to call, possibly, that, I was kinda surprised that Steve Johnson said he would like you to maybe call.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna take that one out for now. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the appointees minus the planning and zoning.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Schedule March planning session. Everybody have a chance to look at their calendar. I'm good for any, I mean, typically we've done this on a Saturday morning, out of Public Works for the morning. I'm good for every Saturday in March except for the 25th. I could make the 24th work,
I'm busy on that day too.
but that would be the only, other than that, every Saturday I've blocked off.
24th is full.
Come up with one as long as it isn't snowing.
Guarantee that. We guarantee that for tomorrow.
I'm open on all Saturdays.
Okay, all right, so, hey, I have a handy dandy little calendar here that Everett just gave me that I can't read without my glasses, so.
Everett, you should have handed out bifocals with that.
3rd, 10th, or 17th, so
17th.
17th, St. Patrick's Day morning party?
Yep.
I mean, meeting?
Yep.
Meeting?
Wow.
Meeting is what I meant to say there.
It's open to the public, too, by the way.
It is open to the public. So does that work for everybody?
What time?
March 17th, I think we started at 8 before, and then
Done by
scheduled
noon.
throughout the morning and done by noon?
Mhm.
Okay, all right, so we'll set that for March 17th at 8 AM at Public Works, and then we'll get that posted for a public meeting and that stuff there.
Yep.
So March 17th, 8 AM at Public Works. All right, thank you very much. That's all I've got for now. We'll have some more stuff down in personnel. So, on to the administrator's report. Aye.
A CMLM meeting is coming up on January 31st. I think I put that in your packet. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep, so I just need to know from you if you'd like to attend the afternoon session or the evening session, or both. I can register you for both. And the deadline for registrations is the 29th, but actually to get a check to them, probably like the 18th. Let me know.
So by the end of next week, we should let you know.
Yeah.
All right, I just gotta check the schedule for.
You mark me down for the evening for sure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
I gotta figure out which one is which.
The evening one goes to Brenda, the other one goes.
So if everybody can
evening
get
one goes
that
to
back,
the-
get
Oh,
that
okay.
back to Teresa by next Friday, that'd be great.
Okay.
Number 2. CAC agreement?
Yeah, so we've been doing a conservation improvement program agreement with SEMCAC for several years. This past year in 2017, we had, allocated $10,000. They spent, just under $4,000. So, part of the challenge is that we're a very small utility, so finding low-income, folks that qualify for the program, there's a limited market to draw from. And then, it turned out that, either they or we, or however the contract was, modified from use in another city, was also restricting, what we were allowing those funds to be used for. So this agreement adds a weatherization component so that they can address infiltration issues. So if that's broken glass, things that are causing cold air to basically get into the home, or warm air in the summer, I suppose, too. So we've added a weatherization component to this agreement that's not been in your previous agreement. And then, just kind of arbitrarily, there, was a requirement that any appliance that was replaced had to be 10 years old, and we do not require that, for any of our regular rebate customers. So I have removed the 10-year-old appliance requirement. We don't, if someone comes in with a new refrigerator and says they recycled the old one, we don't ask them, how old was your old refrigerator? And, then the other piece that SEMCAC was requirement they were applying was that, it was limited to one appliance per household. Well, we don't limit our other, folks to a rebate on only one appliance. So hopefully by making those changes to the agreement, we'll be able to spend the money that really we need to be spending on low-income programs, and be treating our low-income customers essentially the same as we treat our other customers, so.
Because this is a state statute, if the utility has to spend X percent or
Yeah,
X dollars a
we
year
have to
on-
spend we have to spend 25% of 1.5% of our gross income on low-income programs.
Okay.
So yes, it is a formula.
Okay.
Yep. So, that's actually where I came up with the $13,000 also, is that we looked at, our gross income, and, did we do 2015 or 2017? I forget now. 2017, okay, well, that's what we did.
It used to be you bought appliances and you'd think they'd last 10 years. It isn't that way anymore. They won't even tell you that if you go to buy the new one.
Nope, I know, I've got several of those. Okay.
So those are the changes from last week.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the administrator on that? Okay, entertain a motion to approve the SEMCAC agreement.
I'll make that motion.
No second?
I'll second it.
Any further discussion?
No, I just.
Oh, you were ready to say aye already.
Yeah.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion passes unanimously. I felt like you're ready to say something. Okay, J, engineers report.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council.
Here we go.
Might it be a lengthy one, so I'll try to be quick and abbreviated, so definitely interrupt me if you want more information. The first on the list here is Highway 57 improvements. This should look somewhat familiar to you as a council. We brought forth information to this previously, our application we submitted to MnDOT, and then the award letter that we received, that we're receiving funds for MnDOT for improvements on Highway 57 from, on the south end, County 34, which is East Veterans Memorial Parkway, all the way to the north to 11th Street, which is the north end of the fairgrounds there. What you have in your council pack is a preliminary layout. That's what we submitted to MnDOT. It is preliminary. We will develop the scope if we proceed to move forward with the project with additional meetings and discussions with MnDOT, public meetings and meetings with the council. This layout is preliminary just to develop some cost. The second option is cost opinion. I think there's probably a couple hundred pay items on here. When you get engineers working on cost opinions, it gets interesting to say the least, so I'll kind of break it down here, and how the cost participation breaks down on a percentage of cost, and then we'll get down to the second Excel spreadsheet there that has the grand total of the proposed construction cost. So to kind of summarize everything, ultimately, the roadway cost is going to be incurred 95% from MnDOT. The city would incur 5% of the roadway cost. Lighting, aesthetics, and the traffic signal would be split 50-50 between MnDOT and the city. Sidewalks would be 100% incurred by MnDOT, so MnDOT would be taking up all the cost for the sidewalk. Storm sewer would be 75% incurred by the city. It's generally based off a drainage area, so the storm sewer picks up generally about 75% of the city side streets, city property. MnDOT only likes to pay for their actual right-of-way. So same thing, Chris, I kind of thought you'd think it would be more MnDOT, but if you actually break down the drainage area. So that's pretty consistent with other agreements that we've seen. Then we have city utilities there. The city is responsible for 100% of their city utilities. Obviously, it's our municipal utilities. And then a little bit different, for a portion of the curb and gutter, the city is looking at incurring 75% of the curb and gutter through the fairgrounds. It's currently a rural section with some ditches that's been filled in. We're looking at extending that curb and gutter up to 11th Street, because ultimately it kind of fits a curb and gutter section there that the ditches aren't working. It's not something that we would recommend. So we are being asked to pick up a little bit of cost there. Break it all down, ultimately get down to a grand total. It's broken up into 2 phases. This is gonna be a 1-phase project, so maybe ignore the phases, but it's about a $5.8 million project. And this is a total reconstruction of 57 from County Road 34 to the north end of the fairgrounds. Of that cost, about 3.2 is gonna be MnDOT cost. Again, they're participating mainly on the street cost and the sidewalks. And then about 2.6 million on the city side of things, mainly due to our city utilities and a small portion of the roadway cost that is gonna be the city. So that's what we presented to MnDOT, and they've agreed to on the cost share portion. Seeing as we've been awarded these funds of the $3.2 million from MnDOT, they developed what they call a letter of intent, and that's the third item in your council packet. So that's we're looking for direction or request from the council to consider entering into an agreement with MnDOT or signed letter of intent, which essentially tells MnDOT, thanks for the funds, thanks for bringing your money to the table so we can pay for the state highway in this project. We're ready to move forward with our utility costs. We see the mutual benefit between the city and MnDOT. So we are asking you to consider passing a motion to allow the mayor and the administrator to sign the letter of intent, and that'll kick off kind of the project here. With that said, I will caution the council, and now it's kind of it's never too late to turn back, but it's gonna get expensive to start turning back from this point on. I think it's a great project. We talked about it in, I think, enough detail to justify why it's a good project for the city of MnDOT. So I will request that of the council and be happy to answer any questions you may have.
This would start
2021.
Correct, 2021 construction.
2021, and we have things coming off the.
Some things, a few things will come off then too. In the, yeah.
We got $2 million to go that way, 20.
Correct, and Nancy, the big summarize it fit up pretty nicely with the debt that's coming off about that same timeline.
Yeah, it'll never be an exact match, it's nice match that's coming off.
The other thing is, if you may remember a few years ago, we did kind of a capital improvement plan, public infrastructure needs, and this was maybe the last big ticket item on that list. We had 3rd, 4th, and 5th. We had the East Main Street storm sewer. We're still proceeding. We'll work into this project next year. And then 2nd Street Southwest that we are going to be reconstructing next year. So it's kind of the next big ticket item to check off the list. Hence why we brought it to MnDOT, so we were not incurring all the costs to rebuild the street if our utilities that are failing. We've had a mini water main breaks, this one here, a few weeks ago right out north of County Road 34. So I think we've had, that might be break number 13 in the last 4 years along this corridor. We got some sewer manholes that are falling in, so
It's not good.
it's not getting any better either, so that's why we have it before you.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Brandon on that? Okay, I mean, personally, I think it's a worthwhile project. It's the next priority as far as our underground utilities that are costing us money every year. We're just bleeding money out, water main breaks every time it happens, so.
Yeah, MnDOT's being real white on it. I mean, they're
Yep.
putting $3.2 million in it.
All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve the letter of intent.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously, Linda.
All right, moving on to the second item here, 16th Street Extension. This is an item that's kind of, again, been on the city's radar, looking at getting some direction on kind of pulling it all together so we can move some stuff forward. We're looking at the 16th Street. You may remember we looked at 16th Street going east out to County Road 15. This is 16th Street kind of going west of 57 from the high school over to the County Road 21 or the dump road there. We've had some discussions with some local developers, the Radel property to the north of the existing trucking companies in the residential areas. They were looking at developing, and again, access to 57 was discussed, and MnDOT wasn't too excited for them to access 57, so they said build a backage road, so that's kind of in this project here that we're looking at. The Schutte property, which I think Mr. Schutte's here tonight, he's approached us kind of at the same time to look at the development of his property, which is to the southwest of the intersection or south of our 16th Street extension. We've had some discussions with the county. They own the property immediately south of the landfill area there. we've had some preliminary discussions with the county about acquiring some right-of-way to run 16th Street through there, so that's been in motion. And then the other thing, the existing properties are not currently served by city sanitary sewer, so we've actually had one of those properties request to hook into the sanitary sewer. So those are all kind of the things in motion in addition to the roundabout, I guess, that's shown at the high school intersection there. So the intent of what I may be proposing tonight to the council is developing what we call a feasibility report, which is take this figure, develop some costs, develop ways that we could potentially not only fund the project, but some cost recovery from the developers through hookup costs, through betterments of building this roadway, the backage road, to allow the Rado property to be developable essentially, the Shooty property and getting 16th Street extended, kicking off the actual right-of-way needs from the county right-of-way so we can secure that right-of-way for our future extension, and then also any property right-of-way or property acquisition that we may need for the roundabout. Those are my intents to develop this feasibility report, to kind of pin some of these things down, put some cost to it, put some schedule to it, and bring that back to the council in the form of a report so we can continue the discussions that we've had with these property owners in a cost recovery method. And then other funding opportunities too. If we have that feasibility report, we can look at our MSAS, municipal state aid funds, dollars we have. We're looking at allocating them on 16th Street to the east. If we don't get those funds, we could look at allocating some of those funds on this portion of the roadway. We could solicit other opportunities too for some funding. So that's what the report would do. We've kind of already looked at some of these things, so some of the work's already done. So I think at the end of the day, to get kind of this feasibility report wrapped up is about a $5,000 estimated fee is what we're looking at, so. I'm looking for some direction from the council on moving forward, or?
I think it'd be a good idea that we move forward on this. I mean, it's only gonna help benefit getting people through town. Getting them to the west, it's gonna open up development land.
Yeah, I think we wanna move forward on it, but didn't we have kind of a plan on just getting that, east end done beforehand?
We have submitted to MnDOT an application for $1 million and I think $600,000 from the city to build 16th Street from essentially the bridge out to 15. That project would happen, or could happen before this if we were those funds. So yes, that is
When do you find out
in the
on them
process.
funds?
Should be shortly, I think it's early this spring, or early in 2018, excuse me.
And that would be a 2009, if we got the funds
I
and we
think
decided
it was
to do it,
19.
it'd be 2019 project.
Correct.
2019. 57 is a 2021 project.
I think we do have a fair amount of money in our municipal state aid.
What's our balance on
Kitty?
that?
Might be close to $1 million. I'm gonna have to look at what Commerce
Yeah.
Drive took a hit there.
Yeah.
Everything we can borrow ahead, it's about $200,000 a year it generates.
I was saying, it gets 200,000 plus 200,000 a year.
Plus we can borrow 5 years ahead.
Okay.
So we have a significant amount of money to be working and making investments into our public infrastructure. Again, we have some properties that are benefiting here. No doubt the Shooty property and the Rado property, there will be some benefit there, so that's another conversation that we need to have with the developers on any cost recovery from their side of things. Also extending the water and sewer to those properties is a benefit, along with the existing properties that are having septic tank issues. There's gonna be a benefit there, so there's a lot of things that are in motion here. We got a very unique project with a lot of things in motion and things we need to work out, so I think again, the feasibility, we've done some of that legwork. The feasibility report brings it all together. We did one for South Manorville Ave, looking at the cost breakdown, and that sprung ultimately that project in the construction phase, in the petition waiver agreements with the property owners, in the one assessment that we're still working through. So it's kind of the step in the process.
So we'd be looking at this on the west side of 57. I mean, it would be before the Manorville Avenue thing here.
Could potentially.
Well, I mean, we've got nothing to stand on unless MnDOT says we're gonna do a roundabout, or we're not gonna do a roundabout, we're gonna do a roundabout. I mean, what's your feasibility report if MnDOT doesn't wanna do anything with that intersection?
So MnDOT's told me that we can build our 16th Street going to the west without a roundabout. So we just have a stock condition on the city streets and obviously through on 57, that we can build that out, and then the roundabout can come later.
So we don't need them involved in this part of it, I mean.
Correct.
It would require.
Well, we'd have to do permitting, but
Yeah.
I asked the question, if we can build 16th Street going to the west without a roundabout, they said yes.
Without frontage roads, or would we have to put frontage road on the west side?
We're proposing, or looking at putting a backage road on the backside of the, Cunningham's.
I see that.
To open up that other
Footy-
property.
To open up right off property.
But not along 57 where it would take property away from somebody, a frontage road there between
So if
that
Shitty was to
corner and
develop,
Dollar
to
General,
the
right?
south,
Yeah.
that likely would be kind of a backage road again. So any development to the south of our 16th Street in that open field down the Bigelow Painting and Family
Mhm.
Dollar, that likely would have to access our 16th Street and then out to 57. MnDOT may allow another access out to 57, but at the end of the day, we're not gonna be able to stack 20 Dollar Generals with driveways all along 57.
Right.
I see.
So there isn't any existing, that's the other issue, is the right-of-way across the Shooty property, there is no existing right-of-way there, so that'll help bring this forward and help, Mr. Shooty plan for his future development too, and.
Do you have any
everybody
kind of a
plan together.
drawing on what you kinda thinking there, or?
Yes, I actually had worked with Rich, and he put together a drawing, I believe the city's got a copy.
Or you
of it.
just kinda on hold until you see
Well,
what you're
yeah,
gonna have to hook to?
Yeah, I mean, we just did this to kind of generate something going on. The one we did was really very basic and not a lot of effort put in, you know, so.
Well,
But we could.
we wanna encourage some commercial
Oh, yeah,
area and
but-
residential and.
So here's how, if the city doesn't lead this, if we say, all right, Mr. Shooty, if you wanna develop your property, build this 16th Street, like we have shown on a regional transportation plan and what we kind of have shown here, and then his argument is, why should I have to incur this 100% of this cost for this road that's gonna benefit the city as a whole? So that's what, the city leading this and kinda getting everything together, is what we're proposing tonight. And there's gonna be some work after this to pull all this together. This is a very deep project without right-of-way, with working with the county, with 2 developers and homes that aren't served by sewer and water, but.
The county's already verbally said they would give us the right of way, right?
They're receptive of it. The next step, I think, would do this feasibility report, figure out how much right-of-way we need, where do we need it, then spring off that feasibility report, bring it back to the county board in an approvable
Have them-
format, sign off on it, then we have it, then we can build it at a later date, is what I have in my mind at this point, so.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? If we get the money for 16 East, okay, that project's a go. If we decide to do this to the west, we have this intersection coming up on 57, which right now is bad enough as it is. And if you extend the blacktop out to the county road, it's gonna get even worse. How much can we push the state to put in a roundabout?
It's kind of a cart before the horse question.
I know,
MnDOT's
but-
not gonna wanna build a roundabout until they see the pressure of that intersection, because you think that intersection's bad, but MnDOT may not think that that intersection's bad because there's not deaths there, there's not a large
They don't
traffic
drive there
there.
every day.
Fair, but
Yeah.
MnDOT has a lot of bad intersections is gonna be their argument. It happens all the time with MnDOT. We think that we have the worst intersection, we want the dollars and cents there, and they say, how many people have died at that intersection? Because we have other intersections that there's been a lot of deaths at. To put it very
Oh,
politely.
yeah,
if you will.
absolutely, we don't, and there aren't, I mean, thankfully, we don't have any deaths there, that's a great thing. But you hate to see it, but it's a matter of time before we have some serious.
Probably not
There's been enough
75th Street
accidents.
north of Rochester, or 43 was,
Yeah.
over by the Yoda, where they put some roundabouts in.
Well,
It
all
was
you'd
pretty
just-
frequent.
You'd just be forced to have the 30-mile-an-hour go up past there, and once that was all opened up, I mean,
Even at 30 miles an hour, there's, you
traffic
create more
volume.
traffic, you create more accidents.
Now, we requested that, didn't we, at one point? At least
Request.
I did. Is there a way to request the speed limit be 30 out to the city limits instead of going 50? You know, basically, it's a drag race, because you hit Dollar General, and a little bit
And you're
before
gone.
that, you're speeding up. You're going 50, 55 before you get to 50, and you're screaming by the school and the church.
Mhm.
Remember, it's 30 out past the city limit. Do we have right over a speed limit in the city limits
No.
on 57?
No.
I didn't think so.
You technically really don't have a right in your own city. You need to do a speed study to show that that's the actual speed being traveled, and if everybody's speeding, that it could go up even. Let's say you had a 30-mile-an-hour, is it 40 through here, or is it 45?
It's a 50 there.
Does it open up to 50?
30 to 50.
But if
Yep.
people are doing 60,
So all of a
they
sudden, it
could
could be
change it.
55 before you know it, so it's.
So we could stand there every day when school lets out and watch the kids' texts as they're driving by.
Yep. That's the only issue I would have. If we create all these opportunities for more vehicles, and somebody gets hurt at this intersection,
Well, I understand what you're saying, but you could say that on any intersection.
I know,
but cities.
but it's obviously going to create more traffic.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
obviously going to create more hazards.
And we want it to create more, we want it to create more.
If you
traffic.
limited, you know, traffic down here at this light, you know, this intersection, because a lot of people could go that way all the time.
So I don't disagree with that in concept, so how do the engineers in MnDOT and the city work through that to maybe come up with the best available intersection if the roundabout's not being built, or a stoplight or some other traffic, control other than a stop sign? So if this project is to move forward and we were to build 16th Street going to the west, we would have to propose something to MnDOT, MnDOT would review it, with their traffic engineers, and then we would all sit down and work out what the best intersection for our situation is, with not likely building the roundabout at that time. We'd obviously be looking at accommodating the roundabout in the future.
It'd be an offset intersection, would it not, unless we move all those utilities?
That's something we need to figure out as we move something forward, so.
Because as you sit on the 16th, the power lines go right straight in front of you, right? You'd have to either move those or have it be in.
Or do we slide the roundabout down, but do we have a right-of-way to the south?
Before the roundabout.
South, it's kind of slide 16th Street going to the east down, so.
Okay.
Those are things we'll work out and ultimately come up with what's the best, most cost-effective feasible option, so. The roundabout could help that skewing this too, to kind of jack the legs around it.
Well, we should be having a lot of contact with them with the other things we've got going on.
Sure.
Might as well move forward. Get paperwork going.
I'd make
So
that,
that's it.
I'd make that motion to, give the engineer the direction to proceed with the feasibility report, the estimated fee of $5,000.
I'll second that.
Any other discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, passes unanimously, Linda. And then B on that one, acquiring right away, is that a separate?
We didn't have anything else for that,
That was
maybe
kind of
the
a note of-
discussion was that part of this feasibility report's gonna have a potential to acquire some right of way, that's what the MnDOT report
Okay.
showed when they did the roundabout. And we did discuss the property at the southeast corner, of the roundabout as a possibility. Ultimately, based on the MnDOT report, it showed it actually all four corners of the intersection. Roundabout's a lot bigger than a typical intersection, so things will show up in the feasibility report to get some general thoughts moving forward, so.
Okay. Thank you. Number 3.
Right. Number 3 might be the most interesting one, maybe. So number 3, Safe Route to School application. Again, we've talked about this in some detail at the previous meeting, so I won't go into the nuts and bolts of the plan, unless you'd like me to. But in your council packet is the draft application. That's the application we're looking at submitting to MnDOT. Myself and some staff and the Cayen School District staff is reviewing that, and would welcome any comments or thoughts that you have on that application. But the direction tonight would be to approve the draft application and allow staff to finalize it before we submit it to MnDOT on Friday. In addition to the application, there's some attachments. The attachments do include the figures showing what we propose for the scope of the work, again, that we talked about previously, so I'm not necessarily gonna go into it. It is consistent with what we talked about last time. There is a cost estimate, we propose, and that's consistent with what we talked about previously, a $375,000 project. In addition to that, there's $75,000 in engineering in the application. So of that, there's certain requirements within this application of a local match, they call it, which needs to come from either the city or the school. So to break that down, ultimately, we're asking MnDOT for $300,000. $75,000 is what MnDOT calls a local match of construction, and then that's $75,000 of engineering. So add that all up, it ends up being $150,000 of local match. What we talked about previously, and this is where kind of a discussion we need to have tonight on how we need to proceed, is the previous 2 meetings I had with the school board, some members at workshops and the school board superintendent included what they proposed of a 50-50 local match. So of that $150,000, $75,000 from the city, $75,000 from the school board. So that's what we brought to you as a council to get authorization to move this thing forward. Since that, we had a final meeting. The school board superintendent kind of changed what he's recommending, or wants to recommend to his school board for the proposed match, due to 2 reasons, or actually 3 reasons. One is Mankato and North Mankato Those two communities did not participate on any of the engineering, they only did 50% of their construction costs. So he, made the point that why should the CAM school board participate on the engineering costs, which again is part of the local match and is not eligible for funding. In addition to that, he brought up St. Charles, which St. Charles was a 50-50 match, but their project had a little bit lower engineering. We actually did that project with St. Charles. They had, I think it was $40,000 in engineering on that project. I told the school board superintendent that was grossly underestimated, and the city and the school are gonna be in for $75,000 in engineering by the time they're all said and done. These are federal projects that are very difficult for us to engineer. There's more non-engineering involved in these projects than there's actually engineering, unfortunately. We have environmental review, project memorandums. There's a lot of things that go into federal projects. So that's what we discussed at that point. His response was that he wasn't necessarily comfortable with what they had proposed at a 50-50 match. So if you go to the resolutions that's in the council package, there is some highlighted text of what was proposed, and bear with me here a second. So in the resolution, so he asked me to bring back to the council, instead of the 50-50 match of the $75,000 from each entity, he wanted to reduce the school board's match to $60,000 as a capped amount, just due to what the other communities had, 60 as opposed to the 75,000, or the 50-50 split. Now, the other thing is, this project is a 2022 project, so I'm trying to project cost out, is that 4 years, so it's a little difficult, and the scope changes and whatnot. So that's what I have in your resolution here to ultimately approve this, is the initial 50-50 match, and I also provided $75,000 capped in the school side of things, so if there's any overages in construction, if the bids come in a little bit higher, that city cost participation could go above the $75,000. If we're below, we would have to relook at things, I guess. Or what they have now revised their proposal to the $60,000 is what, again, the school superintendent asked me to come back and propose to the council. So those are kind of the three options on picking one and going with it, unless the city council wants to stick with the initial agreed upon dollar amount. We can bring that back to the school board and school superintendent say, well, this is what we agreed upon out of the gate, this is what we want to go with. But the other thing is we can ultimately table this application if the two entities, or the city council is not comfortable with that, and we can resubmit it next year. So this isn't kind of lost work. I'm a little working through this change of the last minute here.
Well,
trying to get it
it's
figured
one of
out.
them deals, it's over 3 years, isn't it?
What's over 3 years?
This project?
No, it'd be a one-year project.
I thought it was
It would be
3
until
years.
2022, because it's a federal project, so once we're awarded funds, it takes some time.
Okay, yeah,
to get it going.
leading up to it, but
We could budget for over 3 years.
yeah, 20,000 a year we do sidewalk,
Right.
Some of that sidewalk fund would be put there.
So if we said, so what's the risk if we wait through the application for a year? You'd have another year clearer vision of what inflation's gonna be for the costs. Will we have a more detailed?
It'll be a 2023 project.
Oh, so from the time you do the application, it's 3 years out?
Correct.
Okay, I got it, okay, or 4 years out. All
And
right.
it'll get even cheaper too.
Well, I just wondered if you waited a year and did the estimates, we'd have a better idea of what the cost would be for closer to the project, but if we delay the application, it delays the project.
Correct. Again, this is a competitive grant too, is the other thing, so I mean, we're not guaranteed these funds, so, it's more of a submit and see what comes out of it.
Okay.
So the school's offering to go up to the 60,000,
Reduce their contribution ultimately to 60,000.
so is it worded in there that they will give the 60,000 and say if we are actually able to save 15,000 somewhere and our half that we get the savings, we don't have to split the savings?
We could look at wording the resolution, in a way that we think's appropriate to provide the cost equally.
I mean, I'm just saying, if
First
we're doing 90 and they're
$15,000
doing 60,
savings
they're
comes our way,
savings,
so
we get the savings.
But that's fair, I mean,
What do you think?
I think we made a good faith effort to stick at 50-50, out of the gate. We had 2 meetings on it, and it was actually proposed by the school board, and along with the 3 members of the school board at these different work group meetings, and frustrated that we're not at 50-50 tonight, so. With that said, we obviously we're leveraging our money, was it fourfold, call it 80,000 to bring in 375,000 and 360,000. That's why we do these applications too, to leverage our money, so. The other thing is it's 15,000, so at the end of the day, is it gonna kill a deal if we could bring in 300,000
Well,
outside the community?
At this stage of the game, it's 15,000 is what we're
Yeah.
arguing over.
Right. Okay.
Or we just leave it?
You know, Chris, the next one's ours, let 'em know.
What's it?
I will make note of that.
All right, I guess, to maybe go back to Coy's question, we have in here the resolution is the Kansas School District will agree to provide 60,000 towards the local share, period. Up or down?
I mean, like I said, we're at 15,000, but if Brandon's gonna find us some savings for 15 grand, we can keep that savings.
I think that's only right to write it down.
Yeah, but you also have to understand if it goes over 15,000, then the city absorbs all of the overage.
Right.
Brandon won't go over, so.
Okay.
we're
No,
confident.
Brandon's
All right,
gonna keep it in there.
Pretty comfortable with that decision.
Okay.
That's
All
the way
right.
to do it.
You know that 75,000?
It's just a challenge for you, you gotta be a challenge.
It's both ways.
Okay. I'll entertain some type of motion, if somebody's got some direction they wanna go.
I'll make that motion
Which
to
one?
go with the 60,000 from the school.
6,000
With,
school and any savings we go.
Any savings we take, or keep.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to accept the offer that the school is capped at 60. We'll pick up the remainder of the local contribution match, and we'll realize any savings that there are, which there will be some.
I'll second it.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you, Brandon.
So
So the next step is?
The past two resolutions here, one awarding, there's two resolutions within your council packet. That includes authorization of submittal of the application, and then we would obviously make the correction that the Kansas School District will agree to provide 60,000 towards the application, and then there's some other verbiage in there. Ultimately, it's a resolution authorizing submittal, and the second resolution is agreeing to maintain the facility. It's a requirement in the application that the city is gonna maintain these pedestrian facilities. Now, with that said, the school district may maintain some of it. Mr. Bradford and Mr. J.J. Williams, the school facilities manager, kind of manage different agreements, and some of the stuff's on school property, so they've already talked about that, so
Okay.
that'll kind of play itself out amongst those two.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution authorizing the submittal of the application.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Dan, do I have a second? Second. Thanks, Coy, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. And then the second resolution, I'll entertain a motion to approve the resolution agreeing to maintain the facility as required by the grant application.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Coy, do I have a second?
Second.
Thanks, Doug, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Passes unanimously.
And that should be it.
Thank you very much.
Didn't know it was
Thanks,
gonna be
Brandon.
that easy, did you?
All right, on to, we moved, labor negotiations up to personnel. I do not believe, I can be corrected by our attorney, but that does not need to be closed since we have, tentative agreement and it's been voted on by all three bargaining units and it's passed that, so. That's correct. So we're just here to approve the tentative agreements, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so before you have the three different bargaining units and the three, I guess, tentative agreement language that was presented, negotiated and presented to the unions, and they were voted and all passed. You want me just to give the highlights for public? or-
Yeah.
I haven't seen this.
Okay, so all three bargaining units, the dollars and the percentages are the same, so I'll just use that. So basically, the general wage adjustment was the same as it's been for 2016 and 2017, which is 2.5% per year, general wage across the board. There was no change to the 7-step increase upon their evaluations, that type of thing. That didn't change, that's still at 3.25%. So those things there. On the health insurance, we looked at several different options. I'd like to thank Linda too for digging and finding other options in that. So we presented a couple different options. Obviously, healthcare is the elephant in the room. You know, the health insurance is the thing that is the hurdle. It's the reality we live in today, and it's a beast. So we found a plan that was, deductibles were about the same, the rates were a little bit less, but it excluded Mayo Clinic. After negotiating and talking, it was pretty much unanimous across the board that all the bargaining members valued the Mayo Clinic, and we had to come up with a plan that included Mayo Clinic. So to do that, the deductibles went up, the rates still went up, but not as much by increasing the deductibles. The rates didn't go up as much as it would have if we had kept the same lower deductibles. So, you know, to have the Mayo Clinic, there's a cost in that. So that costs everybody. You know, it costs the employees, and it costs the city more money to have that. But it's valued in, from personal reasons, I can certainly understand why you want that. So I would want the same thing. So the deductibles are higher, the premiums went up. The other change on benefits was the city contribution to the HSA. In the past, with the lower deductibles, the city contribution was 50% of the deductible to the HSA. We lowered that, we offered and lowered that to 20% of the higher amount. So that was, you know, at a cost to the employee also. So that was something that cost them. Those are the big things as far as wages and benefits go. And you got each bargaining unit, there were some different language items in each of them. One thing that we added for hours of work under the IBEW, the first one, Local 949, was to add a park and rec employee to on-call while the aquatic center was open. Because when issues would come up in the evening, we didn't necessarily have anybody designated to be around, and then that would shut the pool down, and it was costing, so that was understandable. Housekeeping. The only other changes on the second page, are there any questions on that? We did have the journey line workers and the lead journey line workers. Those were the two classifications that were, let's just start with the wage study or the pay study that was done last summer that was required by the last agreement that we had, that we were required to do. From the city standpoint, we just said we aren't going to adopt that entire pay study. It was a nice reference and we were forced to do it, but we weren't going to adopt it from top to bottom. But we did go through and look at some of the classifications in the negotiation process that were way out of the market. And if you look at where we were way out of the market, line workers were some of the places that we were way out of the market. And if you look at the turnover at the city in the past couple of years of people that have left that haven't retired, we've lost a couple linemen to other jobs that paid a lot more right here in our neighboring territories.
People go up.
Peoples and Excel. It's just
jobs just as close for near, yeah.
Right, you know, so that was there, so that was what we ended up on there with those two classifications. And then U8, U10, U11 were housekeeping and some articles and appendixes. So any questions on that one?
My only question is, what happened to, been discussion in the past, well, first couple years I've been on council, what is it, Doug, department head versus lead titles? And even when we had the arbitration or the discussion with Mr. Rickey, the union steward, even at that point in time said that wasn't they weren't actually, should be department heads title, because that's actually a non-union protected title.
Right. Nothing happened with that this time.
Okay, just asking.
Yeah, no, and I have a folder for negotiations next time. Okay, thank you. On the min fee, the second one, tentative agreement, again, the wages, benefits there. The other classifications that were moved up a grade were some of the police officers, who were also, in some of those positions, not all of them, were way out of the market, with neighboring agencies, that type of thing. So that was negotiated there. Other than that, the benefits are the same, the wage adjustment's the same. There was number 4, there was a deleted, the discharges will be preceded by a 5-day suspension with pay, that was deleted, it's no longer there. And canine officers, as referenced, it refers to an officer with an active duty canine. So if we run a situation where somebody has a non-active canine, we aren't paying the additional stipend for canine officer. They don't have an active canine. That one, and then the third one, 2 years, the same wages. Clarified some language in that part, in the progression through the step schedule anniversary date. Each year shall require satisfactory performance as determined by employer, but nothing shall prevent accelerated movement without step schedule at the discretion of the employer. Just cleaned up some language
So
there.
that's part of the process, that's gonna be working with part
Yeah.
of the process you were talking?
Yep.
No, we never did really get, when you got down into this, was it helpful to have Susan there?
Susan was very helpful, I thought. Yeah,
Okay.
she was very helpful.
Good.
I'd negotiate a whole different way, but we'd probably have to contact our attorney.
Yeah, well.
So it was nice to have an attorney there, 'cause, you know, unless
She's
you
just
do
so
this
easy
stuff.
to get along with, she's a very
Yeah,
nice person.
no, unless you do this stuff every day, and even, Joe and Rick and the people that came in from the union, they were very helpful as well. I mean, 'cause obviously they do this all the time, and I might say something that was probably not the way to say it, or the way to ask it, or, you know, so.
Yeah.
It helped protect the city,
Yeah.
having someone there to do what they were doing, so. And again, the third one, all wages are the same, that Article 8.5 discharges be preceded by 5-day suspension pay, that was deleted. And then we did have a number 4, a library employee who was denied a step, who's gonna get that step increase retroactive to December 18th. And not the 90-day, it was 90 days review. And that was due to, again, this is where I'm gonna work with department heads. Can't really deny a step if you have a satisfactory, or if you meet or exceed all the parts of the evaluation. It's hard to say, you know, but I'm not gonna give you the step. So, we're gonna.
Right.
Yeah, so that's why, it was meets or exceeds on the evaluation, but the step was denied, and we went back and said, yep, that's gonna be retroactive in the year. So,
That's kind of where I tried to get across to you the one time about a union member doing
Yep. Yep, so
a
that's.
union member, it's hard to.
Exactly. So that's that. So, any questions from anybody?
I do have one. I mean, this is the first I'm hearing any of this negotiating. How long has the negotiating been going on?
We have one meeting in October, and then a meeting in December.
Yep.
I was gonna give an update when I was sick in November, and I wasn't here.
Yeah.
And
Well,
then,
that's what I'm
yeah.
asking for, that I
So
was.
it kinda got, I apologize for that, because we did have it on for negotiation update,
Yep.
and I wasn't here.
Okay, just,
So, that's
Next
in my
time.
notebook for next time, yes.
Thank you.
If there is next time. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the contracts as negotiated and voted on by the, do I have to do them all separate?
So if you approve the tentative agreement,
Okay.
then the contracts will be reviewed, the updated contracts will be reviewed by the attorney, and then
Okay.
I anticipate they will come here as well.
Okay, all right, entertain a motion to approve the tentative agreements as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Doug. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign. Thank you. Attorney's report, one, do you know anything about that? I have the email, if you don't.
A little bit, yeah. I know Ms. Left did receive some correspondence or an inquiry from a citizen about open meeting law, specifically related to closing some prior meetings. I believe you have in the packet some of the correspondence that went back and forth. I believe that matter has been resolved, but I know Ms. Left did say that she would be more than happy to discuss that with the council at future meetings if there's any questions or discussion.
Yeah, and it sounded like it was resolved. John had the issue, and he was, you know, legitimately, so we'll just handle how we close them differently in the future. If there's more than one item, we'll have to close it, open it, so.
Or not necessarily, which Attorney Left will talk to you about Josh will handle it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Probably just address each one of them,
Yeah.
you know, at the end.
Okay, all right, on the correspondence that was in your packets, any questions on that? Okay, entertain a motion for adjournment.
Motion?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
I get the end, like,